Welcome to my first video on the channel. Obviously, welcome if you're from the Instagram page, and welcome if you somehow follow this account from like YouTube comments or videos I did like 4 years ago. What I'm going to do here, I'm not going to get into some crazy long introduction, maybe in a different video, but we already got a couple topics to discuss today. I'm going to be changing the name of this sooner than later because I want to make this more of a broader NBA perspective than just a Knicks page, because just a Knicks page on YouTube wouldn't flourish too much. So, at least I don't think so. So let's get into these topics, right? I'm going to call this series, which you probably already know because it's the title of the video, but I'm going to call it the catch-up. This is obviously episode 1, and that's about it. It's just going to be the whole NBA, discussing what's going on in the past 24 hours. In this case, I was going to discuss the Warriors and Rockets, but it's already been a couple of days since that. Same thing with the Cavs game. Let's get into the first topic. Let's just go over Mike Budenholzer signing with the Bucks, former coach of the year. He's a great coach. It's just that the Hawks are in such a weird situation that neither him or the Hawks need to be engaged in that type of situation together, because they could just sign a younger coach and pay him less and see what happens from there. Budenholzer moves on, goes to the Bucks, and he had breakfast with Middleton and Giannis. That was all over the internet for like a good 10 minutes, and then as soon as you know, he signed with the Bucks. I think that this was a good signing for Budenholzer personally, because it was kind of surprising in one sense because the Raptors are on the table, but you take the Bucks from like an 8 seed in the playoffs and you're building them up completely. It's your team to work with. They don't have any expectations. If you're Budenholzer and you go to the Raptors and say you get the 8 seed, it's a disappointment. If you're the Bucks, you do whatever you want, experiment with things. You have a lot of young players who are willing to listen. Giannis is, of course, a great leader for that team. He loved Jason Kidd, and Kidd wasn't even the best coach. That's about it for that. I mean, I think they're going to be really good under Budenholzer. The one thing, I don't watch a lot of Bucks basketball. There was a lot of Jason Kidd complaints when he was there because of his play styles and his system, and it was just all messy. And of course, we all saw it. That was one of the main reasons why they got bounced in the first round, despite having a lot of talent. On the second topic, obviously the Suns won the NBA draft lottery, which they were expected to do, and they have the #1 pick, and they could pick between pretty much it's just Doncic and Aiden. Aiden, on one hand, is a center. The Suns need a center badly. Alex Len's expiring this year. They have Tyson Chandler, who's older. It could be great for them to pair Devin Booker with a franchise center, and especially a guy who many people think is distinctively the best player in this draft class. He looks like a guy like a Karl Anthony Towns, but maybe even stronger and better on defense. Who knows? When it comes to the Suns, they just signed their head coach, Igor Kokoskov, or something like that. Igor, he coached Luka Doncic. He has close ties to them. But the Suns, supposedly, a report released today, Igor won't be like hindering opinions of the front office who's going to be drafting the player. And I don't think he would anyways, obviously, because he just got there. So he's happy enough to just be in a head coaching position, not that he needs to get his favorite player in the draft. I think the Suns will end up picking DeAndre Ayton. It's just Booker seems like he likes him more. Not that he likes him more, but I think it also just makes more sense as a whole. Pick a guy who plays point guard, shooting guard, or pick a guy who plays center on a team with no center virtually. That's it for the Suns, really. I think #2 is the Kings. They're going to go with the remainder of those two. And then I think at 3, the Hawks will probably go with a guy like Marvin Bagley. This next topic, which flows perfectly, Michael Porter Jr. said he's the best player in the draft class. Now, this was the popular opinion before he got injured this season. We saw Michael Porter Jr., and I still think he could be the best player, as he does himself, of course. But that back injury is also just a caution, of course. Let me know what you think in the comments, if he could be the best player in the draft. But he himself personally thinks he could be the best player in the draft regardless of his injuries. But the difference with a guy like Michael Porter Jr. is that he doesn't really show a weakness. Like, he's a solid defender. He's a good scorer. He could shoot the 3 ball. He could drive and dunk on you, or just make a crafty finish over your head. And his whole offensive game is just completely polished. He's a solid passer. There's nothing really too bad about him. So I don't think it's very far-fetched to think, even though he had the back injury in his first game back in March Madness, Although it was disappointing, I think it's just his first game. We shouldn't overreact to that. Grizzlies, we're going in perfect order right here. A report released today, I saw it first on Bleacher Report, I believe, that the Grizzlies are open to trading the 4th pick to move down. And I don't think this is the worst idea for the Grizzlies. Now, last season, Mike Conley was injured for the whole entire year. Marc Gasol was just alone with Tyreek Evans, by the way, who had a great year. The Grizzlies as a whole, they have a solid team. Like, they don't have a lot of depth, but they do have the star power still regardless. Mike Conley and Marc Gasol are both, I believe, over 30 years old now. So, yeah, you are getting older, but with just one added piece who's solid, you could see yourself back in the playoff picture next year, although the West is stacked. But Mike Conley, that's a huge difference. I mean, you went from starting Mike Conley at point guard to what, Aaron Harrison? Or Mario Chalmers? The Grizzlies, though, I don't think it's a bad idea to trade for. If I was them, I'd probably trade it and see what I could get in return from other teams as like a compensation for moving down in the draft. Because if you could improve your depth and then get a good player, we saw Donovan Mitchell go at 14 this last year, or 13, and he led a team to the playoff. So if the Grizzlies think they're confident enough in their drafting skills to pick a player who could help them make the playoffs or just have a great future with the team, yeah, I'm not totally against that. On to the next one, though. Speaking of Doncic, supposedly he's not sure about going to the NBA. He wasn't sure about these last 2 games in Europe being his last 2 games in the league. I mean, I think he's being genuine with it. Obviously, he loves playing there. When it really comes down to it, you're not going to risk staying there another year, possibly getting injured. Who knows? No one wants to see anyone get injured, but nonetheless, I mean, it just happens. And also, it's been happening at like some of the largest rates we've seen in a long time. I think all in all, Doncic will be in the draft this year. Man, there's a lot of Suns things going on. This one, though, is from a restricted free agent from Phoenix, Elfrid Payton, which I'll include a picture right here. He cut his hair. He finally did it, and there's been a lot of jokes on Instagram. I saw someone comment that he'd bring his field goal percentage up 20%, and that was probably the best one I saw. That's really it. Like, there's nothing really else to say, but Elfrid Payton, like, he's literally got blocked by his own hair before on shots, which I'll include that too. I'm not going to make predictions on Elfrid Payton being better with or without his hair, but I felt that was necessary to include. Miles Bridges said that he lost 20 pounds. I'm not going to go in-depth here. Let me just kind of breeze over this because I could go 30 minutes talking about Miles and Mikal Bridges, right? Or just in general, Miles Bridges compared to the rest of the draft, how I think he could be one of the best players in the class. Same thing with Mikal. That's going to be big depending on decisions. Miles Bridges, one of his biggest things is athleticism, and he's been doing all of this crazy stuff with an extra 40 pounds. He said he weighed 240, and he's a guard/forward. Well, at least he was at MSU. Man, I don't know. He could be crazy in the league. I don't know. Personally, I think the Knicks might need to select him. I think Mikal Bridges is going to be there at 9. If he's not there at 9, I'm taking Miles over Colin Sexton, Trae Young, whoever. I mean, that's just my opinion. For now, at least. Last but not least, DeMarcus Cousins unfollowed the Pelicans, and then a fan asked him why he did it, and he said, quote, "I'm grown." I'm not really sure why unfollowing a team makes you grown or not. But he did say today, though, that he thinks he's going to be ready to be back for the training camp this year despite tearing his Achilles. I think it was February he tore his Achilles, which is really sad, though, because the Pelicans could have been a lot better in the playoffs if that didn't happen. And they already swept the Blazers, I mean, without him, which is crazy. You could say it helped in some essence because of their pace rising without him, but aside from that, he's still an amazing player. Think about him and Davis sharing time on and off the court, one being on and one being off at different times. So yeah, guys, that's the wrap up of episode 1 of the catch up. I hope the reception on this one's pretty good. Let me know ways to improve this, right? Let me know any type of way to improve this. I hope to incorporate different things into this over time. We'll see what happens. I'm gonna do the most I can, though. That's about it. That's all I know. I'll see you guys in the next video. Do all those little YouTube things like subscribe and like and all that. I don't know. That's kind of corny. I'm not gonna say that ever again. Cut.